Dag lieve luisteraar, leuk dat je weer luistert naar een aflevering van deze podcast. Mijn naam is Lobke Faasen, ik ben diëtist. En in deze podcast praat ik over onderwerpen rondom gezondheid, voeding, plantaardig eten, duurzaamheid en persoonlijke groei. En ik heb nu een paar solo-podcasts online gezet, maar vandaag heb ik weer een podcast met een gast. Dit is een hele leuke, hele speciale, om meerdere redenen. Als je mij volgt via Instagram, via deze podcast, YouTube, maakt niet zo heel erg veel uit. Maar als je mij volgt, dan zou je kunnen weten dat ik van november tot en met begin januari in Zuid Afrika heb gezeten, in Kaapstad specifiek. En voordat ik naar Kaapstad ging, ongeveer 2-3 maanden denk ik, voordat ik vertrok, begon ik al een beetje op Instagram met wat vegan accounts volgen uit Kaapstad/Zuid-Afrika. Om een beetje te kijken wat daar speelt, wat voor cafeetjes ze hebben, wat voor aanbevelingen ik van hun zou meekrijgen. Ja, een beetje kijken hoe die niche daar leeft en waar deze mensen dan precies allemaal lekkere dingen gingen eten. Want ja, dat was natuurlijk wel part of the plan als ik naar Kaapstad ging. En 2 accounts specifiek die mij heel erg hebben geholpen hierin, of mij heel erg hebben geïnspireerd, waren allereerst Cape Town Vegan. Ik zal ze ook in de show notes zetten, mocht je het interessant vinden. Maar @Cape Town Vegan met underscores tussen de woordjes. En Leozette Roode. Cape Town Vegan zegt het al. Het is gewoon een account die alles deelt rondom veganisme. Van nieuwe producten tot hotspots, tot events in Kaapstad of rondom Kaapstad. En Leozette Roode, nou, je zal je niet verbazen als je deze podcast hebt aangeklikt. Dat is de persoon die ik heb gesproken voor deze podcast. Maar Leozette Roode, zij is een vegan triatleet. En aangezien ik ook heel erg into sport en hardlopen ben, vond ik het ook heel erg leuk en inspirerend om haar account te volgen. Vergeef me even dat deze intro ietsje langer wordt dan normaal, maar het verhaal is te goed om het niet te vertellen. En mocht je het niet interessant vinden, skip vooral lekker door naar het gesprek. Maar ik ben uiteindelijk in november naar Kaapstad gegaan en ik denk dat ik een week of 3 in Kaapstad was. En toen ging ik daar werken in een koffietentje, The Conscious Kitchen heet het. Superleuk tentje. Er stapt een man naast mij binnen. En we hebben een gesprek zoals dat gaat. Het liep vrij organisch, gewoon een praatje. We waren er allebei alleen. En ik vertel wat ik doe en waar ik vandaan kom. Hij vertelt wat hij doet en waar hij vandaan komt. En hij vertelde me dat hij een vegan safari bedrijf had. Ik vroeg me af, wat moet ik me daarbij voorstellen? Maar het ging er om dat je dan, als je op safari ging of naar een game reserve ging, zo heet dat je een vegan maaltijden krijgt, et cetera. Daar was helemaal over nagedacht. Terwijl bij heel veel van die game reserves kan je enerzijds de dieren bekijken en vervolgens zit je andere dieren op te eten. En daar had hij een heel gemengd gevoel bij. Dus daarom had hij dit bedrijf gestart. En hij vertelde me dat hij zat te wachten op iemand wie hij nog nooit had ontmoet. Maar die was ook een vegan tourbedrijf begonnen. Reistoeren. Wat eigenlijk een beetje hetzelfde inhield als deze man deed op het gebied van safari-tochten. Deze man verzorgde vegan wijntours. Want Zuid-Afrika staat vrij bekend om de wijngaarden die ze daar hebben. En alle wijnproeverijen die je af kan gaan als je dat wil in Stellenbosch. En deze man, waar hij dus op zat te wachten, die was net begonnen met een bedrijf die vegan wijnproeverijen organiseerde. Want wijn, mocht je het niet weten, is niet vanzelfsprekend vegan. Nou, super interessant allemaal. De persoon op wie zat te wachten kwam binnen. En deze mensen hadden elkaar dus nog nooit ontmoet, want ze kenden elkaar online. En vervolgens zegt de man met wie ik als eerst zat te praten van, nou, ik heb al een vriend gemaakt hier vandaag. Dit is Lobke, komt uit Nederland, is diëtist en focust zich op plantaardige voeding. En zo ontstond er een gesprek met z'n drieën. En de persoon die binnen was gekomen, die later binnen was gekomen, die sloot zich aan bij het gesprek en vroeg wat dingen aan mij over wie ik was, wat ik deed. En hoe ik Kaapstad vond natuurlijk. En ik zeg, fantastisch. En ik zeg tegen deze persoon, nou, ik heb dus zoveel gehad aan het account Cape Town Vegan. Want daar heb ik heel veel hotspots vandaan gehaald. En ja, die heeft mij heel erg geïnspireerd met waar ik allemaal moet wezen. En wat de plekken zijn voor mij om te bezoeken. En deze persoon, die dus de vegan wijnproeverijen organiseerde, die overigens Matt heet, die zegt tegen mij, nou, dat is heel erg grappig, want dat is mijn partner. En enerzijds, als je de vegan hotspots afgaat, is het natuurlijk een wat grotere kans dat je deze mensen ontmoet. Maar anderzijds vond ik het toch wel ontzettend toevallig. En ja, dat ik echt dacht, hoe klein is deze wereld, dat ik met de partner van het account zit, wat ik afgelopen maanden, afgelopen weken zo intensief heb gevolgd om een beetje op de hoogte te zijn van waar ik moet wezen als ik in Kaapstad verblijf. Er ontstond ook een wat ingewikkeld gesprek, omdat ik deze man zo intensief had gevolgd de afgelopen weken, precies kon vertellen wat deze man allemaal had gedaan. En ik maakte op een gegeven moment de zinnen af van Matt, want hij zei van, hij is nu even op break. Ik zeg, ja, hij is even op break. Hè. Ik had het gezien, hij had even behoefte aan een pauze van zijn account. En hij had het over de green dietitian, wat een groene of een duurzame plantaardige diëtist was in Kaapstad. En toen zei ik, ja, ik weet het, ze heeft net een kindje gekregen, hè. En hij stond helemaal met zijn ogen te klapperen van, wow, hoe weet jij al deze dingen? Maar dat was omdat ik het allemaal had meegekregen via dat account Cape Town Vegan. Nou, deze mensen hadden natuurlijk gewoon een afspraak. Dus die hebben lekker samen zitten kletsen over hun bedrijven. Ik ben ook wat gaan werken. Ik ben vervolgens vertrokken en heb gezegd, nou, superleuk jullie te ontmoeten. We hebben geconnect op Instagram. En Matt zei tegen mij, joh, als je tips wil of als je vragen hebt of wat dan ook, stuur mij gerust een berichtje. Ik help je graag verder als er dingen zijn waar je tegenaan loopt of als ik je ergens mee kan helpen. En zo heb ik in de weken dat ik daar ben, ik heb hem niet meer gezien, maar heb ik best wel af en toe wat vragen aan hem gesteld. Bijvoorbeeld, wat adviseer je me om te doen met de Kerstmis? En ja, hij heeft me echt super geholpen. Ik zal ook zijn bedrijf, puur als bedankje, mocht je in Kaapstad zijn, eventjes in de show notes zetten, want hij kan alle exposure gebruiken. En volgens mij is die hele toffe dingen. En nou weet ik niet meer precies hoe nou ook alweer het lijntje liep naar Leozette. Maar volgens mij zag ik dat hij genoemd werd in een story van Leozette. Of misschien was het zijn partner van Cape Town Vegan, dat andere Instagram-account. Ik zal ze nogmaals allemaal linken in de show notes, mocht je het interessant vinden om het te volgen. Zijn partner heet trouwens Garth. Ik hoop dat ik het goed uitspreek. Anyway, om de een of andere reden trekte ik op een gegeven moment de conclusie, goh, die twee kennen elkaar. En zo begon ik weer tegen Matt te praten over Leozette en vertelde hij dat zij hele goede vrienden waren. En ik wist inmiddels een beetje wat Leozette deed. En ik moet ook eerlijk bekennen, in het begin van mijn tijd in Kaapstad was ik iets minder bezig met werk en podcasts opnemen. Maar zo'n beetje rond de kerst, toen begon ik me ook weer iets meer bezig te houden met Nederland en mijn tijd daar. En had ik heel erg veel zin om podcast op te nemen. En toen dacht ik, ja, zij is een vegan triatleet. Volgens mij doet ze super toffe dingen. Ik zag ook wel eens dingetjes posten over dierenrechten. En ik had al een beetje door, zij werkt voor een organisatie rondom dierenrechten. En toen dacht ik, het zou wel heel tof zijn om een podcast met haar op te nemen. En ik had mijn spulletjes meegenomen om podcasts op te nemen, dus het kon. En volgens mij heb ik toen nog even aan Matt gevraagd van, goh, zou ze daarvoor openstaan? Ik weet niet meer precies hoe het is gegaan. Anyway, uiteindelijk heb ik Leozette echt de laatste week van mijn verblijf in Kaapstad gedM'd op Instagram. In de eerste plaats omdat zij een kookboek heeft en ik wilde weten waar ik dat kookboek kon kopen in Zuid Afrika, in Kaapstad. En ik heb er uiteindelijk 5 gekocht en ze zei, je kan hem ook gewoon direct bij mij kopen. En toen dacht ik, nou ja, als ik je dan toch ga zien, zou je het tof vinden om een podcast op te nemen samen? En dat vond ze heel erg leuk. Het was wel even krap in de planning, maar ze heeft tijd voor me vrijgemaakt. En het meest bijzondere aan dit hele verhaal is dat ik er helaas, moet ik dus zeggen, in de laatste week van mijn verblijf in Zuid-Afrika achterkwam dat ze in dezelfde straat woonde als waar ik verbleef. Het was letterlijk, ik moest mijn appartementencomplex even uit. Dan liep ik naar rechts en als ik dan 200 meter naar rechts liep, het volgende appartementencomplex in. Dat was het complex waar Leozette woonde. En enerzijds was dat natuurlijk fantastisch om te ervaren van, wow, we zijn buren. En anderzijds dacht ik, waarom ontdek ik dit nu pas, nu ik bijna vertrek? Anyway, ik ben de volgende dag volgens mij dus naar buiten gestapt met mijn spulletjes. Het appartementencomplex naast mij binnengegaan. En daar hebben wij de hele avond ontzettend gezellig zitten kletsen. En dus de podcast opgenomen die je nu gaat luisteren. Leozette is een ontzettend lieve, warme persoonlijkheid die ik daar heb mogen leren kennen. We zeiden ook van ook al ben ik nog maar een week, we hebben echt een vriendschap gesloten. Super lief mens. Je voelt soms gewoon als je in mensen hun aura komt, wauw, hier wil ik langer blijven. Of op zich heb ik nu al genoeg van jou. En zij had echt zo'n warm, liefdevol aura om zich heen. Echt heel erg fijn. Ik hoop dat je dat een beetje doorkrijgt mocht je deze podcast afluisteren. Maar ze is dus triatleet. Ze heeft ook de halve Ironman afgerond. Ze loopt heel veel hard. Het grappige is ook dat, ook al was ik er nog maar een week, ik zei dat toen ik vertrok die avond. Of course kwam ik haar de week daarop overal tegen, want zo gaat dat dan. Want we woonden ook zo dicht bij elkaar. Het was ook eigenlijk heel bijzonder dat ik haar nog niet eerder had herkend. Maar goed, ze loopt heel veel hard en echt lange afstanden. Ze eet plantaardig, dus daar gaan we het over hebben, hoe ze die twee combineert. Ze werkt voor een dierenrechtenorganisatie waar we het over hebben. En we hebben het over specifiek de dierenrechten issues die dan spelen in Zuid Afrika. En waar zij zich hard voor maakt om het land een beetje beter te leren kennen. Ik heb hem al even teruggeluisterd, uiteraard. En je zou bijna denken dat deze podcast gesponsord is door Zuid-Afrika Toerisme of iets dergelijks. Maar dat is absoluut niet het geval. Maar ik ben bijna 2,5 maanden in Kaapstad geweest. En ik heb zeker een stukje van mijn hart daar gelaten. Dus ik ben echt heel erg verliefd geworden op het land, op de plek, op de mensen, op de cultuur. Dus ja, dat hoor je wel gewoon zo her en der door de podcast heen. Dus er komt zeker ook een beetje naar voren hoe fantastisch Zuid-Afrika is. En wat de mogelijkheden zijn als je daar bent. En ik hoop gewoon dat je heel erg geniet van dit gesprek. Dat je er iets van opsteekt. Het is dus in het Engels. Ook nog wel even goed om te zeggen. Maar 100% zeker goed te volgen voor jullie. Als ik het kan volgen, kunnen jullie dat ook. Je mag lachen als je me af en toe iets geks hoort zeggen. Uiteindelijk is Engels niet mijn eerste taal. Maar ik heb mijn best gedaan. En Leozette begreep mijn vragen. Dus dan ga ik ervan uit dat het verstaanbaar Engels is. Nou, heel erg veel plezier met het luisteren. Excuus voor de lange introductie. Maar ik vond het een te mooi verhaal om het niet te delen voordat ik deze podcast startte. En ik hoop dat je er wat van opsteekt. Great.
Yay.
Thank you that I can be here and that we can record this podcast together. I already told you helped me so much in my time here in South Africa, together with the vegan Cape Town account, Garth.
Yes, Garth.
I say it right? Yes, thank you. Garth, to find all the best places to be here in South Africa. And so even if people just plan to visit Cape Town one time, they should definitely follow you too, because you will have the best and most amazing time, at least food-wise.
Oh, I'm so happy that we can help to make your vegan experience in Cape Town a good one.
Yes, but really helpful. And you also eat plant-based yourself already for how many years?
Yeah, so on the 1st of January, I celebrated my 10-year vegan anniversary.
It's good to say it's the 9th of January today when we record this. So you're actually just had your anniversary.
Yes, exactly. Just over a week ago.
You started that for January probably.
Yes, on the 1st of Veganuary, at the very, very first year that Veganuary was launched.
Tell me, do you remember the time or the moment you started thinking about what you eat and what made you switch to a plant-based diet?
Yes, I remember it very vividly. I watched a documentary many years ago. It was actually 11 and a half years ago now. I love wildlife documentaries or animal documentaries. And then I came across a documentary called Earthlings.
Ooh, that's heavy.
Yeah, I thought that it would be a lovely animal documentary about Earthlings in the world.
That's a cold shower.
I know. And then to my shock, it was obviously about animal abuse, all forms of animal abuse, and I cried my eyes out. And then I immediately, after watching that documentary, I decided that I won't eat meat again. So I became a pescatarian. And I was pescatarian for a year and a half. And then I saw this Veganuary campaign being advertised. And I thought, oh, well, I'm already pescatarian. I can give up fish and eggs and dairy. I didn't eat a lot of dairy and eggs anyway. So let me give it up for a month and do this campaign and help the movement. And I just loved it. I felt so healthy. So I decided to carry on.
And were you also aware already a little bit, at least, about the animal welfare problems with eggs and dairy? Or was it also new for you when you ditched those products?
It was quite new for me. I learned a lot about it during that first month of being vegan for Veganuary. The documentary that I watched, well, the parts that I watched was mostly about meat and not about the egg and dairy industry, because I closed my eyes for some of it, and I did switch it off at about 3/4. Actually, my boyfriend at that time switched it off like 3/4 in. So it was a shock to me, and especially that it's happening here in South Africa.
Yeah. We think about it like that's third world country. And actually, I think because Earthlings is already quite some years old, Dominion is more like the recent version. If people are curious, be prepared. It's heavy.
Yes.
But then you should watch that, I think. And I thought, I haven't watched Dominion, but I thought that they also went to like the best animal welfare, like organic meat farms for that film.
Yes. So I also haven't watched Dominion. Just
we don't
because
need to.
No, we don't need to. We don't need
We
to
know
remind
it.
it or re-traumatized. But in a lot of the documentaries, that's what they do. They go to the very best high standard farms to show you if this is the best version of what's out there. Can you imagine what the worst is?
Yeah. And let's talk more about the plant-based diet when we talk about exercise.
Yes.
Because now you also you work for animal protection.
Yes.
To protect the animals. Tell us a little bit about what you do, what you focus on, and when you started, because I think that also went hand in hand with choosing to eat plant-based, but I assume. So tell us.
Yes, it does go hand in hand. It's part of my vegan journey. I studied public relations and communication, and I worked in that industry for industries and represented various brands. And then when I became vegan, I really wanted to use my voice and my skills to promote eating more plant-based and to help animals. And so Humane Society International, which is a global animal protection organization, they came to South Africa to launch a meat reduction campaign called Green Monday, South Africa. So it's almost like Meatless Monday.
Yeah.
It's just Green Monday. So, and it's instead of vegetarian, it's fully vegan, and just encourage people to eat more vegan. So I went to the launch event of that program, and I met someone from the organization, and she asked what I do, and I said, well, I do communication and media and social media. And so she said, well, we are looking for someone to do our PR and communications and social media. So I applied immediately. It was the ideal job, and I got the position. And then I started working for them about 8 years ago. And it has been an absolute dream job for me. And through that, I've also started to connect with other organizations. I mentioned to you earlier that we have ProVeg in South Africa as well.
Yes, ProVeg. We know them.
So I do a lot of volunteer work for them, and we collaborate with organizations like ProVeg and others to help promote veganism in South Africa.
How cool. And can you tell us a little bit about especially when it comes to the agricultural issues? We have a very big agricultural sector in the Netherlands. So we know our problems, cows and nitrogen and it's just we are a small country and with too many animals. That's in basic. That's the problem. But what are the animal welfare issues, or maybe the environmental issues with the animal industry, the agriculture industry here in South Africa?
So we have the same problems as all the other countries with having too many animals and eating too many animals. The South African culture relies heavily on meat, unfortunately, and especially with animal welfare, and this is one of the issues that we work on as Humane Society International Africa, or in short we just say HSI Africa, is that a lot of our animals are living and bred and live in factory farms. So for instance, 94% of our egg-laying hens live in battery cages, and at least half of our sows, our mother pigs, live in gestation crates. And it's a horrible life. Those animals don't have the space to stand up, to move around, to express their natural behaviors. So that's something that HSI Africa tries to eliminate. And we work with corporates and with the industry to try and save those animals. But in terms of environmental factors, it's exactly the same. We know that animal agriculture is absolutely detrimental to the environment in terms of land use, water use, other resources, the methane emissions, exactly.
And what kind of animals are bred here the most? Like the chickens, pigs,
yes.
Also cows?
Chickens, definitely the biggest form of protein, as a lot of people live in poverty in South Africa, and chicken is the cheapest, as well as eggs. But also cows, sheep, pigs. We have a big bird called an ostrich,
yes.
And a lot of people like eating ostrich meat.
It's like a delicatessen.
Yes, it's a more expensive piece of meat.
Yeah. And they are proud of it.
Yes, very proud of it. And then also South Africans, you probably came across this a lot, eat also kind of a delicacy called biltong. It's
yes.
It's dried meat,
yes.
With spices
you
on
see
it.
it a lot here.
Yes.
It looks disgusting, by
yes.
the way. It's like a salami, you could say.
Yes.
This dried meat, yes.
Exactly. So you get the drivors, which is like a very thin salami that's been dried out. And then the biltong is like a big piece of animal meat, like a steak would be, but a very long piece of steak that's also dried out. And South Africans love it. It's like one of our like cultural foods.
Yeah. Let's talk about cultural foods later.
Yes.
Because I'm actually also curious. Africa, a lot of Europeans immediately think safaris and the big five, of course,
yes.
and they are beautiful. And I thought, because you work for the organization you just called, maybe you can tell us a little bit, especially in the vegan community in the Netherlands, there's some doubt about how animal friendly is it to join such things. I know here close to Cape Town you have the Aquila, and I was at the vegan goods market and I asked, is it good or neutral to go there? And a few people say, don't go there. I see your face already, so you're happy I did that.
Yes, exactly.
But it's the first thing people ask you when you're from the Netherlands or European and you say, I'm going to a country in Africa. Are you going to do a safari?
Yes.
What do you think about it? If we want to make a good... if you really, because they also, of course, always say, yeah, but we take care of the animals, not only in terms of, we take good care of them, but we also are crucial for their, that they are
sustainability.
Yes.
Yes.
What's your opinion on that?
So in South Africa, we have many, many, many game reserves that offer safaris. Some of them are very ethical and they truly do promote conservation. But we also have a lot of reserves that lie to tourists about what their animals go through and how they treat their animals. And then we also have game reserve that straight out offers trophy hunting of big animals like elephants and rhinos and lions. We have a situation in South Africa where we have a lion breeding industry, and at the moment there are actually more lions in these breeding facilities, about 12,000 lions, than there are in the wild. In South Africa, we only have about 3,000 lions in the wild. And these facilities offer things like cub petting, where you can touch the little baby lions and other big cats like tigers and leopards or little cheetahs. And you can take selfies with them, or when they're a little bit bigger, you can do lion walks with them. Obviously, you pay to do the selfies and the cuddling and the walks. But then when these lions grow up, and they're no longer cute enough to cuddle or fit enough to walk with, then they are used to be shot as a trophy. And a lot of these facilities that offer these experiences lie, and they say that, especially to tourists, they say that these lions were orphaned, or they breed the lions because there's such little lions left, and that you can rewild lions, and that is absolutely not true. So there is a website, and I will send you the link. Maybe you can
put it in the show notes.
Yes,
definitely.
That rates the different reserves, and it's red or orange or green. And then if it's a green one, you know that it's an ethical one to go to. If it's red, then absolutely stay away.
And what is some of the red flags? Like touching animals is a clear red flag, I think.
Absolutely. If they offer any form of interaction with animals, like the touching or the walking, then it's a red flag. And also, obviously, if they offer the hunting of these animals, trophy hunting of our big game, then that's a massive, massive red flag.
Yeah. Well, that's good to know. Don't actually, I think when in doubt, don't do it.
Yes, exactly.
That was already, actually it's kind of funny, because I remember when I booked the ticket to Cape Town, I was not even thinking about it, because I actually almost all the time I think, if you really care about the animal, just give money and don't go there at all, just give them their space. But that's my personal opinion on that. And if you go, at least go to something good. Yes. But because so many people ask me, are you going to go there or you visit this, blah, blah, blah. You even start, even if you didn't want to, you just start thinking about it. Oh, am I missing out, So I was very happy that I was at the vegan goods market.
Yes,
I say it right.
Goods
yes.
Market.
Because of you, by the way, because you shared it. and then I thought, well, if there's one place I should ask someone, should be here, right?
Yes, exactly.
And then they already said, no, they almost fooling you, because they will just make sure animals are there by putting some meat there, so they will come to that place and then, oh, look, the lions.
Some of them do it, but don't get me wrong, there are a lot of game reserves in South Africa that are also very ethical, that don't interfere with nature at all, that you can go visit and you can see our magnificent big animals, and especially the big five, and a lot of them do great conservation work as well, in terms of mitigating rhino poaching, or for instance, we run another campaign called elephant immunocontraception. I know it's a big word, but basically it is like giving birth control, but in this case not hormonal birth control, to an elephant. And you might think, oh gosh, why? Elephant is an endangered species, which is very true. Elephant is an endangered species, but in certain game reserves, especially the smaller ones, the elephants can overpopulate, and then instead of them being culled or shot, we inject them with a vaccine, which is like a birth control, so that they won't fall pregnant. But note that this is absolutely 100% reversible. So the elephants can still have babies if they need to. And also we won't vaccinate them before they've at least have one baby themselves.
Very good. Great. Well, we put the link in the website, so if people want to visit one of those places, then they at least know where to go.
Exactly.
Because it's very hard sometimes to find your resources. So that's great. And don't go to Aquila. Don't do that. It's the closest to Cape Town, but just stay away from it. And you're very open about how you live, your ethics. especially your work. I think it's a great conversation starter sometimes. What do you eat? What do you do for your job?
Yes, it is.
Do you feel like in the Netherlands, when you say that, especially to a certain population, people can be a little bit triggered, you know? Mm-hmm. It's not always accepted, or people find you a little bit like, you know?
Yes.
How is it in South Africa? Is it a lot of support? Is there a big vegan community? Like, for example, with the safari parks or the trophy hunting, especially, you said, well, that the locals also are like, that's not acceptable anymore. But tell us a little bit about how this is living here.
So in terms of the wildlife and the trophy hunting, we did a survey and found that most South Africans are very against line breeding and trophy hunting. And in terms of the vegan industry, veganism is still very new to South Africa. When I went vegan 10 years ago, I didn't know any other vegans. They were here, but I didn't know them. There wasn't a vegan community, and there were very little vegan products on the market. I remember that I was looking for vegan cheese, and there was only one brand that was imported from the US, and it was disgusting. Oh, it was so bad. I'm like, I'm never going to have cheese again. But
actually, South Africa is, I think at least, not even a very big dairy, not as in the Netherlands at least, dairy consumption is not very high, because I struggled. The first thing I'm going to be honest here, when I'm coming home, is having a decent cup of soy yogurt. I can't find it here. I found one. It was disgusting.
Oh no. We've got a nice coconut yogurt, one or two. But yeah, soy yogurt you don't get often. Like I said, it's still very, very niche. We do, especially in Cape Town, we are very blessed that it has grown tremendously, and we do now have a lot of stores that offer great alternatives, and a lot of the restaurants, especially here in Cape Town, that you probably also found, has great vegan options. But in some areas in South Africa, especially in the smaller towns, we wouldn't know what a vegan is or what veganism means. Some of them wouldn't even understand what vegetarianism is. So I'm very blessed to stay in Cape Town, where it's becoming more mainstream. But in other areas, yes, it's a little bit frowned upon. I must say I'm very lucky that my family and my friends are very supportive. So I am Afrikaans, and the Afrikaans community is known for eating a lot of meat and for something that we call braai, which is like a barbecue, but it's the Afrikaans term for barbecue. Mm-hmm. And the first thing
braai, from Brian.
Yes, exactly. And a lot of my friends and my family, when I first went vegan, said, oh, but now you can't braai with us. And I'm like, I will find a way. And surely we do braai all the time. We have the most amazing vegan options that you can put on the fire. So I'm very happy and very blessed to have a supportive community. But in some areas of South Africa, it is still, like I said, frowned upon and misunderstood.
And do you experience a lot of backlash from your whole work, or do they with open arms, you know?
It also depends on the type of work that we do. Obviously, the industry gives us a lot of pushback. The hunters find excuses for why trophy hunting is important. They say that it improves conservation and sustainability, and that they give a certain percentage of money to the surrounding communities, and it is not true, or if they do, it's very, very little. Of course, the meat industry gives us a lot of pushback on the vegan products in South Africa. Last year, they tried to get all vegan products with a label that says meat or nugget or burger or patty to get it removed from the shelves. And luckily, we've got a council here in South Africa that represents consumers, and they stepped in and said, no, you can't do this to consumers. You can't do this to the industry. So the products weren't removed, but this is still something that they are pushing for. And I think that they're feeling the pressure, or they're starting starting to feel the pressure. So we do get feedback, or pushback from certain people. Every now and again, there's also an individual that tries to challenge me personally, but I find that not fighting with them is the best way of going about it. I try to be an example of a healthy, happy, fit vegan, and mostly people come to me and they ask me about it, or they see the food that I post or the athletic races that I do, and they come to me and they want to know more about it and my lifestyle, and they're very open to hearing more instead of me pushing it onto them.
Yeah, that's best inspiring instead of preaching, of course.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, that's the perfect bridge. Let's talk a little bit about your exercising and your how you perform. Because you're a triathlete.
Yes,
a triathlete that hates swimming.
Yes, that is true. I'm not a big fan of open water swimming. I don't like it when the waves come crashing in my face.
First, maybe let's explain for people that don't know for sure, what is a triathlete?
Yeah, sure. Okay. So a triathlete or a triathlon rather is tri means 3. So there are 3 aspects to this. The first one is swimming. The second one is cycling. And then the third one is running. And in a triathlon race, you do all 3 of those practices. So I started off with running. I've always been quite fit. I like to jog and I like to go to gym. But I got into running about 7 years ago. A previous partner of mine was training for Comrades, which is something that I've entered for this year, and I'll talk about that later. He was training for Comrades and he was running a lot, and then he encouraged me to come do some longer runs with him, and I just fell in love with running again. And this was about 7 years ago, and I've just been running more and more. And I just found on a plant-based diet, I got stronger and stronger, and I recover so quickly after every race that I do, every hard session that I do. And I thrive as a plant-based athlete.
Thrive and inspire again.
Thank you.
And what is your biggest achievement so far in the sport?
So I've done a lot of half marathons, that's 21 kilometers, and full marathons, that's 42 kilometers of running. But my biggest achievements are probably my half Ironman races. Ironman is a triathlon, and you get the half and the full. I've done 4 half Ironman races. So with that, you have to swim in an ocean or a lake or a dam, some form of open water swimming for 1.9 kilometers. And then you have to cycle for 90 kilometers. And then you have to run for 21 kilometers. So that's what a half triathlon or half Ironman is. And yes, I did 4 of them. And last year I went to Rwanda, a country in the middle of Africa, and I competed in the half Ironman there. And I placed second in my age group at that race, which was a very, very big achievement, especially because I'm on this plant-based diet that everyone thinks lacks in protein, which is absolutely not true.
Well, I want to get into that, but first I'm actually curious, I don't know exactly how, when you started exercising and made the switch and how those two relate to each other, but were you kind of scared that it would influence your performance when you switched to a plant-based diet, or were you very secure about it? Did you have your doubts?
Not really. I wasn't super scared because just before, like I said, it was more like casual running and gymming. I was worried about my health though, because I didn't know if I would be healthy, if I would get all of the nutrients. And that's something that my mom also brought up a few times when I did veganuary, and especially when I said I'm going to stay vegan. She said, well, what if you get sick? What is going to happen then? So I said, well, I'm doing the research and it looks like you can be very healthy and fit and strong on a plant-based diet. So I'm going to continue and I'm going to still exercise on this diet and I'm going to see. And because I felt so healthy, I started taking on more and more exercise as well. And I just got stronger from there.
Cool. Well, I noted a few things I know athletes can struggle with, and I'm curious how you do it. So, first of all, I want to know a little bit more about your diet and how do you make sure you eat enough calories? If someone struggles with that, how do you manage it?
So, as an athlete, and especially when you're training for something as big as an half Ironman or marathon, you're obviously burning a lot of calories. And you can definitely get all of the macro and micronutrients and calories that you need to perform as a vegan athlete. I eat mostly whole food, plant-based. I mean, I
love that.
I love cooking from scratch. And I mean, I'm not against alternative products at all. I do have some in my fridge and my freezer almost all the time because they're nice transition products and they're nice go-to products. Or if I quickly go for braai at my parents' house, I know that they always have some patties and sausages there for me. But I love cooking from scratch, whole food, plant-based. I think that's the healthiest way of eating. And I used an app called Chronometer.
Yes, we know it.
Yes, it is fantastic. So luckily by now I more or less know how much I need to eat, and I listen to my body and I eat more when I have a big training session. But I also every now and again put whatever I eat into Chronometer, and I mean, it can't be 100% accurate, but it's more or less accurate into showing me how much protein, iron, calcium, calories I'm taking in and what I still need to take in. So that's a good way of judging whether I'm getting everything in.
Yeah, and what if you noticed, it's a little on the low side maybe? Do you maybe have tips like... For example, a tip I give a lot to clients is if you struggle with getting enough calories, maybe eat a little bit more frequent, you know? So don't focus on 3 main meals. That's a lot if you need 3,000 calories. Some people can. It would be easy for me.
Yes, I struggle.
But some people struggle,
yes.
like you. So you also frequency, are there maybe certain products you use more than to make sure, maybe avocado or something?
Yes, exactly. I'm glad you mentioned avocado. So natural good fats are quite high in calories. So your olives, your olive oil, your nuts and seeds, your avocado. So that's a great way of adding more calories to your diet. But also I find that adding ingredients to, for instance, your smoothies can bulk up the smoothie quite a bit.
Yeah.
If you add chia seeds and an extra banana, or just a teaspoon or a tablespoon of peanut butter, for instance, or a protein powder to your smoothie, that can bulk up the calories in the smoothie, and you'll still feel as if you are drinking the same amount, let's say a cup or 2 cups of liquids, but it's packed with calories and a lot of nutrients that your body would need.
Exactly. Don't just blend fruits.
Exactly. No, pack it in. Make it interesting. You can add between 10 and 15 ingredients to a smoothie, and you can make it fun. Play around with the ingredients.
Exactly. And then it also never gets boring.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, if you wanted to, you can have a different smoothie each day of your life.
Yes, and a different salad. I love salads, and people often think that, vegans only eat boring salads, and which is not true. I add everything from fruits and roasted chickpeas, other types of beans, and veggies, roasted veggies especially, to my salads to make it fun. And then again, you can make your own salad dressings that you can pack in some extra calories.
Yes, great. As supplements, you already mentioned protein powder. Any other supplements? B12, I assume?
Yes, definitely B12. And I also take an iron supplement. Or recently, as of last year, I've started doing iron infusions. I've just always had low iron, even before going vegan. And as a woman, we can tend to have lower iron levels. But I go for my blood test in the beginning of every year. I'm actually due to go now at the end of January again.
We're a little bit too early here.
Yes. But I go just to check in to see if everything is good. And the only thing that I kind of struggle with is my iron. And
because women menstruate.
Yes, exactly. And so I just make sure that I go for my iron infusions probably about 3 times a year. And that way I make sure that my levels stay constant.
I think we should also maybe add to this that even though it's always very good to exercise and also just for your mindset, I can imagine that it's good and it's challenging, but in a way it's also maybe a little bit beyond what your body should have, especially those Ironmans.
Yes.
You can have a debate about how healthy it is. Maybe it's more challenging than healthy. So then it is a struggle to get your iron, for example, because you use so much.
Yes.
Also, people that get so lean, they lose their period probably.
Yes,
so,
exactly. So every person is different. So it's really hard to say, as an athlete, you need to eat this amount of calories every day, because I might burn less calories than someone that's double my size on the same run. So it's really important to understand your body, to go for your own blood test, to know what you need, and to do your research and to speak to a registered dietitian or nutritionist. You can also educate yourself. I love nutritionfacts.org, and I'm very jealous that you have met Dr. Gregor before.
Years ago, I just told you. Yes. I met Jay. I don't think he remembers, but I met him on a boat. That sounds very weird, on a cruise boat.
Yes, oh, funny.
And I would also like to add, I just recommended him The Proof. Simon Hill is an amazing resource, but maybe too detailed sometimes for especially Dutchies to understand because it's English, but the resource is great. So if you want to know more about healthy nutrition and athletic performance, definitely check it out and give it a try, I would say. You're going to do it at least.
Yes, I'm definitely going to do it. And there's also amazing books out there, for instance, and these authors and inspiring athletes also have their own podcasts. For instance, there's a man called Rich Roll.
Yes.
You know him.
Of course.
He is amazing. And
what I love about
incredible.
him, I think he started running in his 40s or 50s,
yes.
not when he was 20.
Exactly. He was an extremely unfit couch potato, and he decided to turn his life around. He adopted a whole foods plant-based diet. He started exercising.
Quit drinking.
Yes, quit drinking. And he's doing these super challenging ultra races, and so I love his book. There's also another ultra runner called Scott Jurek, that's also on a plant-based diet, and it's phenomenal to read how they are thriving.
Any women that inspires you?
Yes, there's a woman called Lisa Gawthorne. I can't remember her surname now, but I'll send you her profile as well. That's also a vegan athlete, especially runner that I follow, and she wins her age categories all the time.
Wow.
Yes, there's more and more people are going vegan, especially athletes, because they find out how many benefits a plant-based diet offers for someone that's quite active.
Yeah, very cool, very cool. Well, I'm not as active as you are, but I'm also doing well on the plant-based diet.
Yes,
I'm running.
You ran today 5 kilometers.
I did a half marathon one
so
time.
So windy. I'm very proud of you.
Yeah, maybe people will hear it because it's also windy right now. So if you have some background noise, it's just the wind, but that's just a nice little ambience, right?
Yes, exactly.
Let's talk a little bit about African cuisine.
Yes.
Because you wrote 2 cookbooks, actually.
I did.
When was the first one and when was the last time? The last one is not that old, right?
Yeah, the first one was in 2018. And the last one was now in September. We launched.
Really?
Yes, it was very, very early. On the 5th of October, actually. Sorry, 5th of October was the official launch. But at the end of September, it featured on the shelves of the retailers. And that journey is quite interesting. So I'm not a trained chef at all. I'm a home cook, but I've loved cooking since I can remember. My grandma or my Oma taught me or introduced me to the world of cooking when I was about 3 years old. And I've always loved playing in the kitchen. And then when I went vegan, I love dinner parties. I'm very close with my family. I love eating with them. And I just decided that I don't want to give up the traditions just because I don't eat traditional foods anymore.
Food is not just nutrition, right? It's it's culture. It's societal. It's social.
Yeah.
It's identity.
Yes.
That's a lot.
Very, very true. So I decided to veganize some of our family recipes so that I can still eat with them. Like my mom's lasagna, for instance, I loved, and I wanted to eat that with them because lasagna night was always such a special night. And I decided to put those recipes out to the world. There wasn't a South African vegan published cookbook that you could buy in the stores. So I decided to put my recipes on a blog and on Instagram. And after a few years, a big publisher in South Africa came across my profile and asked me if I want to put those recipes in a book. And also, I developed recipes for HSI Africa because of that Green Monday campaign that I mentioned. We go into universities and corporate kitchens and teach them how to do plant-based meals. So I had to develop recipes for that campaign. And because I volunteered for ProVeg, I did cooking demos for them, and I also created recipes for them. So I had a lot of recipes, and then we published that first cookbook in 2018. And then COVID happened, and I started playing in the kitchen again, like we all did. And I gathered up another 100 recipes that we could then choose from for the second cookbook.
And it are traditional African recipes, because we didn't even mention the name. It's South African vegan, something like that?
Yes, it's called The South African Vegan Cookbook. And the second one is called The South African Vegan Cookbook 2.
Exactly. And I will definitely drop it in the show notes. I thought I found the first one on Amazon. People can buy that one in the Netherlands. Let's hope that it's really true if I am in the Netherlands, because it knows I'm in South Africa, it's a little bit confusing sometimes.
Yes.
But the second one I definitely couldn't find. But maybe if people know people that go to Cape Town, they can grab it from, because you can buy it here at the V&A waterfront. There were a lot of copies, I can tell.
Yes.
How many did you sold already? Do you know?
So the first book has sold over 10,000 copies, which is amazing. When we first brought it out, I think we printed 2,000 copies, and I still pray to think, please can it sell out, and please don't let it go on to like a buy one get one special. So the fact that we've sold 10,000 copies in a very niche vegan industry in South Africa, I think is amazing. And I know for the second one we've sold, I think, 1,500, but this was just before Christmas when I checked in with the publishers. So I'm sure that after Christmas, that figure went up as well. I'm very excited to see whether the second one does as well as the first one. The second one is a lot bolder than the first one. Both of them are beautiful, but the first one is like really subtle, and it's a beautiful introduction to veganism, especially veganism in South Africa, whereas the second one is like wham bam, here we are, now veganism is mainstream in South Africa. Let's cook some cool recipes together.
Cool. And tell me a little bit about the African cuisine, because I talked, like I told you, with the guy from the Sunshine Food Company.
Yes, it's my favorite restaurant in Cape Town.
Yeah, they have delicious recipes, and a very nice guy, and he's very talkative, so he started a whole chat with me and talked about the fact that a lot of the African traditional recipes are actually originally vegan. They didn't mention it that way, of course, but they were plant-based, we should say, because meat is very expensive. In most countries it still is. It's only for the wealthy people. Is that true? Can you talk a little bit more about it? Do you know that? How did it evolve? Why did they add meat to it? It's probably the Westerns wanted it.
Yes, it is.
Talk about it.
So originally and traditionally, yes, Africans, not just South Africans, but Africans eat a lot of plant-based food, especially beans, legumes, your leafy greens, and in different areas of Africa you get different types of beans and fruits and vegetables and leafy greens, obviously depending on the climate in those areas. And so veganism really isn't a new concept. It's just because it's a strange word now. But if we look at the diet of our ancestors, it's very, very plant-based, whole foods, plant-based. And what's really interesting is that it's coming back. Obviously, like you said, with westernization, we got introduced to meat and a lot of processed products, and we still have a lot of processed products, especially also vegan processed products, but more and more people are wanting to eat clean and healthy, and they're going back to the old ways of eating whole foods. One of my good friends, Jessica, she has a practice, she's a dietitian. She has a practice called The Green Dietitian, and she just brought out an e-recipe book full of indigenous African vegan recipes, and that ebook is online for everyone.
Oh, so Dutchies can get it.
Yes,
cool.
They can, and then they can cook some vegan recipes. And I also told you I'm more than happy for you to share one of our South African traditional recipes, maybe from my cookbook, with your listeners to see if they want to create something traditional in their kitchens.
I'm gonna make sure, I don't know how because it won't fit in the show notes with a picture, but I'm gonna make sure, go to the show notes, it's somewhere there how you can find, I'm gonna show one or maybe two recipes from the book, because I, of course, bought one. I actually bought 3 from you. So that's very nice from you. Thank you. What recipe are you most proud of yourself that you made for the book?
Oh, there's so many recipes, and in all of the interviews that I've done, choosing my favorite recipe is probably the hardest question, because
like your favorite child.
I know it's very, very hard because I love all of them. I think one of my recipes that I'm most proud of is a peppermint crisp tart. I don't know if you eat that in the Netherlands at all, but
Say it again?
It's a peppermint crisp tart. So in South Africa, we have a chocolate called a peppermint crisp. So the inside is like candy, like peppermint candy, and around it is chocolate. And people make this dessert called the peppermint crisp tart. It's a traditional South African dessert that everyone loves. And basically it has a layer of cookies in the bottom, and then a layer of cream. And you add this chocolate, a peppermint crisp chocolate, to it, and then a layer of caramel, and then you repeat the layers. Maybe you can share a picture of it on your Instagram at some point so people can see what it looks like. And that recipe, there's no South African one. Well, when I went vegan, there was no South African recipe for this tart. And I had to think very hard about how I'm going to do this. And eventually I did. And it's probably one of the favorite recipes of all of my vegan friends. Garth, the Cape Town vegan, he loves that dish from me. When he comes to visit, because we have dinner parties together all the time, when he comes to visit, I have to make that recipe, that dessert for him, and he gets 2 pieces. He knows he gets 2 pieces. There's always one for him when everyone has dessert, and then there's one for him to take away that I put in a little Tupperware container before I put it out because everyone will finish it.
Well, you understand now that if I come back, you need to make me that.
I will absolutely make it for you.
I have a very big preference for sweet, so...
Oh, good. I actually don't have a sweet tooth, but I do like making it for friends when they come over.
Yeah, actually, I made one friend here or a very special friend, I should say. And when he watched my camera roll, he said, "Are you really a dietitian?"
Oh, well. There's a place in Cape Town called Grumpy and
I've
Runt.
been there today.
I was going to say you must go there with their donuts.
I've been there today. It was heaven.
Yes, they have like 10 or 20 different donuts and they rotate the different flavors all the time. And it's such interesting donuts and they're all vegan.
Don't go there every day, but once in a while,
for a little treat.
Balance, right?
Yes,
balance.
absolutely.
Hey, how well do you find traditional national staple recipes lend themselves to plant-based conversion?
It's difficult because a lot of the traditional South African recipes nowadays, not the original ones I spoke about previously, but nowadays involve meat. But you can absolutely transform those recipes into more vegan-friendly recipes. For instance, I have a bobotie recipe, which is a traditional Cape Malay dish that we eat in South Africa that's usually made from mince, and I simply use brown lentils instead of the mince, or you can use a meat alternative like soya mince instead as well. So for me, it's still, as I mentioned, very important to be able to eat our traditional South African dishes, and I have found a way to veganize them and to enjoy them, as has many of my South African vegan friends.
Cool. At last, what I already talked a little bit about the athletes that inspired you. Is there someone else, maybe a content creator or maybe someone in your inner circle that inspires you a lot to keep doing what you do? Because you're I've never met such a happy animal welfare. How do you do it?
It's some days it's more challenging, especially in the work that I do, because we also have to face the reality of what goes on our factory farms. I worked for our UK office for about 1.5 years, and there I got introduced to fur farming, which I never even thought about really, because we don't wear fur in South Africa. It's just not cold enough here.
Yeah, Netherlands, that's a thing.
Yes. So mink farms in the Netherlands, for instance, I had no idea about. And then with COVID, obviously a lot of them were closed down. Thank goodness.
Yes.
And so it can be very challenging, but you know what, as I mentioned earlier, you need to be inspirational and full of energy and show the positive side of living a more cruelty-free lifestyle. Show that it's possible and show that you can thrive in order for people to also see that side. Because if you are an angry and sad vegan all the time, who would want to become vegan? So in my organization specifically, I am very inspired by our HSI Africa director, Tony Garens. He is a phenomenal leader in all of the animal welfare scenes, as well as our global media director, who I worked with very closely when I worked for our UK office, Wendy Higgins. She's still based in the UK. She does a phenomenal job in communicating how important it is to live a cruelty-free lifestyle. So in that sense, those are my two biggest inspirations from our organization. And then, as I mentioned, people like Rich Roll and Scott Jurek and Lisa and the Williams sisters and Arnold Schwarzenegger, they are all great vegan athletes that show that it's possible to eat this way and to live this way and not having to give up on the things that you love to do. you can actually add more things to your hobbies.
Yeah, well, thank you very much, and that you had the time, because it was very last minute that I texted you, and you definitely are added to my list of inspiration, so thank you so much.
Oh, and thank you for chatting to me. It's an honor to be on the show, and I'm looking forward to listening to all of your other podcasts.
Gonna make it happen that I'm being here again.
Yes,
and then
please.
I'm gonna have the cake, or what was it, the pie?
Yes, the peppermint crisp tart, the tart, yes.
Thank you. Ja, en als je dit hoort, is het einde van de podcast met Leozette. Zoals ik al zei in de aflevering, ik zorg ervoor dat er een recept uit het kookboek van Leozette, wat helaas niet verkrijgbaar is in Nederland, dat in de show notes te vinden is, zodat je een Zuid Afrikaans recept ook hier in Nederland kan maken, maar dan de vegan way. Ik wil je heel erg bedanken voor het luisteren naar deze podcast. Mocht je mijn podcast nou leuk, waardevol vinden, laat dan alsjeblieft een reactie achter bij Spotify of geef hem een goede review in Apple Podcasts. En volgens mij kan dat tegenwoordig ook bij Spotify. Laat weten dat je het waardeert. Is echt heel erg fijn voor mij om te zien, maar helpt natuurlijk ook enorm om de podcast bij een breder publiek te krijgen. Heel erg bedankt voor het luisteren en tot de volgende aflevering.